The entire contents of this podcast and website are based upon the opinions of Tammy Garcia and her guests, unless otherwise noted. The information on this podcast is not intended to replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional and is not intended as medical advice. It is intended as a sharing of knowledge and information from the research and experience of Tammy Garcia and her guests. This is the Naturally Inspired Podcast, coming to you from our 1890 homestead in Johnstown, Colorado. I'm Tammy, and I want to thank you for joining us. Let's get started and help people feel good so they can do what they love for longer. Today on the Naturally Inspired Podcast, we have Dr. Taylor Mitchell joining us. Taylor received her degree as a naturopathic doctor from Trinity School of Natural Health in Warsaw, Indiana. She practices naturopathic medicine at Boulder Body Balance in Boulder, Colorado. She also serves patients at BioNew, which is an anti-aging clinic in Littleton, Colorado. Taylor helps people with nutrition, weight loss, hormone balance, and more. She is deeply passionate about helping people feel happier and healthier. Taylor is excited about all the possibilities within natural health and all that we can do to feel good naturally. Thank you, Taylor, for being on the Naturally Inspired Podcast today. How's it going?
Wonderful. How are you?
Doing great.
Yeah.
I know you're out of state right now in Utah, but it looks like we have a great connection. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that everything will just go smoothly. We won't have any audio problems or anything like that. I don't foresee it. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
What's the weather like in Utah right now?
Pretty cold.
Is it? Do you have snow on the ground there?
Yeah.
Oh, are you skiing or getting any fun in? I know you're down there on business.
No, but I'm getting fun in, but not skiing. I'll just ski when I get back to Colorado.
Good decision.
Yes.
So we always like to start on the Naturally Inspired Podcast by getting to know our guest.
Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where were you born?
Born in Minnesota, Burnsville, Minnesota.
Okay.
Moved to
a Minnesotan.
Exactly. And moved to Golden, Colorado when I was 2 years old. So I grew up there. I love living there so much. I love Golden. It's amazing.
Yes. Colorado's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. So lucky to live there.
Yeah.
I've always loved the mountains and nature, and it's always been just so much of a passion of mine to spend time in nature as much as possible.
Right. Was that something that you kind of grew up around, a natural lifestyle, like out in nature all the time?
Mm-hmm. For sure. I wouldn't even tell my parents. I would just go to the mountains and just explore, I loved it.
Right. Definitely getting something out of that, even at a young age.
Definitely.
Yeah. So is your family, you're a naturopath, correct? So you practice natural medicine. Was your family into natural medicine or holistic medicine?
Yeah. Both my grandparents are naturopathic doctors. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I grew up with that. So that's great.
Wow. That's interesting. So what was that like back then versus like what it's like now to be a naturopath?
So I didn't grow up with them. I moved to Oklahoma where they live now when I was 13. So that's when it started for me to have more of an influence with natural medicine.
Right.
It was great growing up with that. With just having like at least that there to like follow, like take care of your body, be healthy.
Right. And so like when you got a cold, was it different?
Yeah.
Like, did
vitamins.
So you didn't get like Sudafed and all that stuff. They were like taking this natural approach from you from that young of an age.
For sure. They would say, we don't do drugs,
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's part of it. But also, I was also put on medication when I was young. Since I was 9 years old, I was put on pharmaceutical drugs. My grandparents didn't want me to take that. They kept telling me how horrible it was, but my parents insisted on me taking it all throughout school. So I did.
Okay. So let's dive into that a little bit, because I know when we talked earlier, you mentioned that, and I think that's such an important story to share. Sometimes when we are into natural medicine and, that's all there is, we really buck the other model, and vice
Yep.
versa. And vice
For
versa,
sure.
right? When they're in the normal, so to speak, realm of medicine, Western medicine, they tend to think there's only that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we can kind of, merge these two together and take a more integrated approach with our health,
Yeah.
everybody will win. So you grew up with two naturopathic grandparents.
Yeah.
And then something happened in your life, right? So what were you going through at that time before, you started this medication? What was happening?
So I've always had relentless energy. I'm very curious. I love to just take off and go. I don't even watch TV still now. I mean, I don't even have a TV because I'm always on the go, always just have a lot of energy. I'm always just wanting to explore and go do some fun things. And that's how I was when I was younger. So I really didn't like sitting still for 7 hours at a time, just sitting there listening to something I wasn't that interested in. And it was hard for me, and so basically my teacher told my parents, we need to put her on ADHD medication because she doesn't sit still and she doesn't want to sit here and listen to this information. So the best route is to just put some drugs in her.
Wow. So that was teacher recommended?
Yes. That happens a lot. I see that a lot, actually. That's most of the reason that, at least that I've heard that kids start taking medication is the teacher doesn't want to deal with a child that has a lot of energy and, won't just focus and sit still.
Okay. So teacher comes to parents and says, this is the case. And how do parents react at that point? How did your parents react to that?
They heard that I have ADHD, so they took me to a physician, which they confirmed that I have this disorder.
Okay. Do you remember how that diagnosis or that conclusion was brought about?
I do. Yes.
What did they do?
So I went to this lady's doctor's house. I remember going to her house and talked to I guess it was a therapist or something like that. I don't know what type of doctor it was. But she just asked me a bunch of questions and asked me about, myself and what I like to do. And then she told my parents, yeah, Taylor has ADHD and she must be put on medication if she wants to pass school.
Wow.
So that was ultimately the reason behind that. If she wants to get good grades, then she needs to be put on medication.
Wow. So it was just a verbal meeting, like a verbal conversation and an assessment based on her knowledge where she came up with this diagnosis.
Yes. But it was already basically it was probably easy for her to say, yes, I was, because it was already on the agenda. Like it was already like there, hey, Taylor might have ADHD. We were told that she does. So that was just she does.
Right.
It probably made that decision.
Wow, that's incredible because it's like the power of suggestion, right? The teacher sees has a problem on a day-to-day basis with you, so she thinks, or he, whoever it was, and then that's suggested to parents. Parents then take it to professional, and voila, you have a diagnosis.
Yep.
Okay. Amazing. That's amazing. That means amazing, especially because what happens next after you get this diagnosis?
I get put on medication.
Okay.
So I was in sports too. So, and I wasn't able to tell the sports team that I was on this medication. So I kind of had to keep it secret. As years went by, I already knew I hated the way I felt. I felt anxious. I didn't like the way that my personality was. I developed anxiety because I couldn't really be myself because I was on all this medication. And over the years, they kept switching it up because I didn't react well to some of it. So then I was on Concerta first, and then Strattera, and then some terrible things happened with that. And then went to Vyvanse, and then Adderall. So at the end, I was taking Vyvanse and Adderall at the same time because I kept having to up the dose because I was more immune to it. And then at that time, I hated the way I felt so much. I was like, I don't want to take this anymore. My doctor said, oh, what we should do is add Prozac to the mix.
How old were you at this point?
I was 14 whenever they put me on Prozac. I was 16 whenever they put me on Prozac, Adderall, and Vyvanse at the same time. I was on all three at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. At that point, it sounds like they're treating symptoms of the one medication with another medication.
They were.
Yeah.
So I developed like these rashes rashes on my arms, I think. And I think it's from heavy metals because all pharmaceuticals have toxic heavy metals. So my digestion was terrible. I had brain fog. I felt like I was jittery. Like, I just not the way I felt. And so that's when I decided to do my own research. And I came across Dr. Wallach, actually, and I found him on YouTube and listened to what he had to say. And I was trying to do some research about ADD and found out.
So how old were you when you decided to kind of take this into your own hands?
19.
Okay. So they started you on medication right around 9?
Yes.
And so for all those years till you were 19, you were on a myriad of different medications, just trying to control your ADD.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, that's some heavy stuff there. I mean,
for
that's
sure.
all from a suggestion from a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's how that worked.
Wow.
And so I basically ordered the products that he recommended. I quit my drugs cold turkey, which could have been dangerous. I think the products probably helped with that. Started to do what he recommended. And, I was like, this is so interesting. And I was already interested in nutrition because of my grandparents.
Right.
So I started taking courses for nutrition. That's what I was going to college for.
Right. So you mentioned you were searching on your own. So you decided to make this shift because you just didn't like the way you felt, right, on the medication. So that's when you became curious and started kind of looking for other ideas.
For sure. And I gained a lot of weight too because of, I think the medication really messed up my digestion and obviously my liver, because your liver is over 2,000 functions that are really important for many things, including your digestion. So I had bad digestion problems, and sometimes I would stand up too fast and I would faint. I think it was cutting off oxygen to my brain, dehydrating. And I know I definitely felt the side effects. I definitely did.
Wow.
Yeah, I asked my doctor, like, what's going to happen next? What are we going to do? Put me on more drugs? Because this already isn't working out. Like, what does my future look like? And he said, no, he's told me we're going to keep going until we find the drugs that work for you. And I was like, okay, looks like this is just not going to work.
Yeah.
So
you found Dr. Joel Wallach, who is, a published scientist and researcher and amazing naturopathic doctor.
Yep.
And you found his work and you just dove into that.
Yeah, I dove into it, took it, I loved it so much. I found out where he was going to be lecturing, and I went to see him and met him and was like, hey, I'm so excited. Thank you and for helping me. And it was great. He's been one of my good friends for a long time now.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so it really did help shift kind of my paradigm and kind of have like something that fit right in with what I want to do. And that's when I decided I want to be a doctor. I want to be a naturopathic doctor.
Yeah.
Help people and help parents, and reach enough people to say like, hey, you don't have to go down this route, because I imagine how hard it is, and people probably don't have the same story as me. Imagine being in those drugs for even longer, problems, what debilitating health challenges people would face,
Absolutely.
Tell parents there's a better way.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely other things you can try before you resort to medication. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how you ended up coming off of the medication. You said you cut cold turkey, which is not recommended, right?
I wouldn't say don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
So I don't know. Yeah, basically, I was kind of on and off with it. I think that probably helped too. I wasn't taking it every day. It was just towards the end. It was like I was weaning. I kind of just was just taking less and less and not taking it every day, and then eventually just stopped completely and had the solution of how it's like a blood sugar imbalance and how my body doesn't metabolize sugar efficiently, and that's kind of the result of ADD. So I approached it that way. I approached it with correcting my blood sugar system, as well as the rest of my body, but with emphasis on that, and that really helped.
Wow. So you kind of weaned yourself off the medication, and you were able to research and find out this is actually your body was reacting to not being able to process sugar.
Yeah.
So you were having this kind of overactive behavior, maybe mind racing. What were your symptoms of ADD?
Just I have so much energy. I couldn't focus for long.
Can't sit still.
Yeah, I can't sit still. But I don't think that's a bad thing, just to be curious and to not just sit there all day, every day, and learn about stuff I didn't necessarily, I learned interesting things, but I didn't want to learn it all day, every day. Just that, I mean, we're supposed to do that, I know, but that's not what I wanted to do with that age.
No,
I
I
wanted to be in the
agree. I
mountain
think
and play,
right. I feel like it's an aged out model, the way school is set up, to
Sure.
sit and listen to something that you don't have interest in. Wouldn't it be fascinating to see experimentally if we could, set it up in a way that kids were kind of put into things that they were passionate about, and how much they could learn from kindergarten all the way through if
Yeah.
they were driven by the things that they actually were interested in.
Exactly. Yes. Let's find things that we like and we're interested in, we're curious about, and what we want to learn about.
Right.
I think a lot of ways that kind of dims people's curiosity, because like people don't like to learn because they spent all these years
learning about stuff
they didn't want to learn about. Like, I don't like learning, like,
yeah. And when they finally get out of school, it's like, yeah, I'm free. they think it's over. Like they don't have to learn
anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you're not, if you're not learning in life, then you're not growing.
Exactly.
It's like, you're never really supposed to stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
You're always, you're supposed to always kind of keep adding to what you know.
Totally. I still have to learn a lot,
Oh yeah.
Every day.
Every day there's something new that, you can incorporate into your life, and if you're open to it. And that's what keeps life exciting.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally. Mm-hmm. So let's get into what you were talking about with the sugar and diet. So what impact, in your opinion, does diet have on our health? Like in your case, that was huge impact, right?
Yes, absolutely. It has a major impact on our bodies. If we're going to put something in our body that has some chemicals in it, or some unhealthy ingredients that our body doesn't like, it's going to cause some type of reaction. It's going to cause an inflammatory response, regardless if we feel something immediately or not. Doesn't mean just because we're not experiencing symptoms doesn't mean that a reaction or something is not going wrong in the body. A lot of people don't see it that way. Like, oh, I eat this, I feel fine, everything's fine. Not necessarily. Your body can still be, it can still kind of mess something up in your body. That just because you don't feel it doesn't mean that it's not causing some type of damage. It affects our mental, physical health for sure. Especially with Americans. I mean, our food, there's no secret that Americans don't necessarily have the healthiest diet. We allow things in our food that no other country does. Like, we bleach our wheat. We use margarine. We're the only country that allows this margarine, which is like basically machine lubricant. They take this oil and then they heat it and they bubble it, and then it's basically like plastic. It's the only country that allows that. And our FDA basically allows tons of chemicals in our food that most other countries don't. So that there's no secret. Most people can tell you that Americans aren't the healthiest that they could be. Our diet and our food is not very healthy most of the time. There are healthy choices, but
I can speak on that firsthand, because when I moved here, even I'm from Canada, and I noticed a dramatic taste difference in things like cheese and yogurt, and not even dried products like cereal products. Well, come to find out, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that red dye number 40 and several other ingredients are actually banned in Europe and in Canada, but permitted in our products.
In a lot of our food. Yeah.
Terrible. And that made me mad.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, why is that okay for us, but not okay for other humans? That's a red flag to me. And it's, when we get aware of it, and I preach this all the time on the podcast, only when we start, showing up with our dollars to not buy those products is when that will be, omitted from our food supply.
For sure.
So awareness is key. You mentioned the standard American diet, right? Which is I feel like it's getting a little bit better. I do. I feel like there's a, especially in certain states, like Colorado just got voted, I think, the healthiest state still, which was really nice to hear.
Right.
But obviously other places it's not yet. The awareness is not there, but I do feel like we're making an impact out there somewhat with certain, people who are pioneering the movement to kind of clean up our food. So I do think that, but how do you think that the standard American diet is contributing to diseases or conditions like especially depression and anxiety? We're seeing a huge rise in depression and anxiety. And I just wondered what your opinion is on that and how that correlates.
Yeah. So, what I've learned is that depression, anxiety are caused from toxins. There's things that feed toxins like chemicals, sugar, processed foods. Gluten, for instance, will feed a virus or a pathogen, and that's going to have a response that's our bodies are not going to resonate well with. And people in America, we take the most drugs probably out of any other country in the world as well, and they're full of toxic heavy metals, which cause depression and anxiety and migraines, brain fog, all kinds of horrible brain problems. So, we're kind of set up in a lot of ways for failure because our food is, our food's processed, and you go to a restaurant and you don't know where that food came from.
Right.
It comes from another country, and who's really watching our quality of food.
Right.
Unless we go to the store and get organic, we don't know where it's coming from or what's in it or what's not in it.
Oh my gosh. And I don't know if you saw it on Facebook right now. There's quite a big video going around about energy drinks. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Where, they pour the energy drink on a loaf of bread or whatever, and it just rubberizes the loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And it congeals eggs to the point where they're just like a floppy, plastic mess. And our kids are drinking that.
I know.
And that's what scares me.
For sure.
That young people are drinking those kinds of things and eating those kinds of things is definitely scary to me, especially when it comes to depression and anxiety. Because that can be an issue at that age anyway.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. And then we're dumping all this other stuff onto it. It's a little scary. But
it is, for sure.
So what can we do? Like, what do you advise clients to do to try to get on the path there of, like, when you say eating out, you don't know what you're eating. What are some suggestions?
So listen to your body. Your body, if you listen and tune into your own body, your body's going to tell you what it likes and what it doesn't like. So if you really focus on that, and I always start everybody off with meditation. If you don't like the word meditation, go with some deep rhythmic breathing and just kind of try to clear your thoughts. And that kind of allows your body just allows you to become more in tune with yourself and with others and with the world, that you're living. Cooking at home is great. You save money. You know where it's coming from. Right. And the thing about restaurants too is, like, with heavy metals are an epidemic that science and research has not discovered how much harm they actually are doing. They're oxidizing and rusting in our bodies, causing tons of problems. I could talk for hours on heavy metals alone and what the problems that they're causing. And when you go to a restaurant, there's in those pots that are scraping at the bottom. They're scraping those utensils. Where is that going? It's going into our food. It's going into our bodies. Right. So that's you can't really. Also, you don't know where the food is coming from, like I said. So going out to eat is great, but just making it better decisions.
Right. When I think heavy metals, I think fish.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think fish, but like, what else? What other kinds of foods are? You said processed foods.
Yeah. So there's metals in, like, food from a can and from a fish. Yeah, if you drink from a pop can, it's also in the air. It's in, if you drink water, like from out of the tap, the copper pipes can be in there. All pharmaceuticals have heavy metals in them, which is pharmaceuticals are in our water as well. Right. And also, if you've ever had a fluoride treatment, you have heavy metals in your body. So.
Right. And so that's one way of explaining some of these conditions that we're going through. But how does deficiency come into place with nutrition? Yeah.
So your body just needs like signaling. Basically, what they are signaling vitamins. There's feeding vitamins, signaling vitamins, and messages need to get. The messages need to get in contact with each other throughout the body. So, like Dr. Wallach's saying, even in animals, you are deficient in any nutrients, you're going to get 10 to 25 diseases based on each nutrient. There's 90 essential nutrients. There's 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids and 2 essential fatty acids. And if you're deficient in any one of those for a length of time, you can get 10 to 25 illnesses. And it's important to take them all together because they're connected like a web. They need each other to work together, so important. Also, where they come from, because if they don't come from plants, they're coming from rocks, which are metals.
Right.
So, 90% of nutritional supplements you find on the counter are not from plants. And the FDA does not look seriously at our vitamins. It's a problem because people don't know that it really matters about the quality control. Like, where is it coming? Where is it extracted from? How well is my body absorbing this?
Right.
And what conditions were they extracted in? Were they encapsulated or whatever they do? It's all important. It's all important.
Right. You mentioned, like, I kind of look at it like a lock and a key. When you talk about, your body goes out searching, here's the key, and it's looking for the lock when it comes to nutrients. That's how I envision it.
Yeah.
And so when you were talking about that, like, people, I think vitamins didn't work for me. Supplements don't work. I don't need them. We're getting all we need from our food. And well, you and I know that that's not true just because of the quality of our food. But for our listeners, a lot of the reason why some of these people have tried vitamins and not have them work is consistency. I think that's a big part of it, right? Are you being consistent with it? Have you given it a long shot, a good enough amount of time for it to work? But also cofactors.
Cofactors is so important.
Right.
Totally.
So can you explain that a little bit? What's a cofactor?
So all the nutrients are connected kind of like a web. So you can't just take one by itself. So like you become more deficient in trying to assimilate them and break them down and use them. Like if you just take, like, say, zinc by itself, you're going to need D3, you're going to need magnesium, you're going to need calcium and a bunch of others. In fact, you actually need 25 cofactors from each nutrient. So it's so important to take all of them. People don't really know that.
Right.
In order to break it down for your body to use it, you've got to have multiple nutrients in there. So if you don't, then you become more deficient in those nutrients trying to make that one work.
Right.
So that's people sometimes not only do they not get better, they sometimes get worse than before because they were already deficient in those nutrients. And then your body's having its reserves that it has that doesn't have much of to make it even worse.
Well, that makes sense. And then also we have another kind of factor that comes into play, which is, are they absorbing?
Yeah, most people aren't.
Right. And why aren't they?
Because people don't have strong hydrochloric acid or bile. And it's important to have that, but they don't really know that. And also, people don't think that they need hydrochloric acid. They think they've got too much.
Right.
So trying to destroy what they don't already have enough of. They just try to destroy anyway. So that's why.
Right.
That's crazy.
And that's a common myth, right? Like, a lot of people think acid reflux is too much acid, but in fact, it's not, right?
Not enough. Yeah.
It's not enough. So if you're having acid reflux or a lot of, like, indigestion, chances are you have not enough acid.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you want your stomach acid to be very strong and robust.
Right.
You want it to be, but that only makes sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do we promote, I back and forth on the whole, like, kombucha, fermented foods, like, can you straighten that out for me?
So kombucha, for touch on that for a second, kombucha will feed everything in your digestive tract, good or bad. So people that have a lot of bad bacteria or bacterial overgrowth, like most of us do, they drink kombucha all the time, and that'll feed the bad bacteria, which it feeds your good too, but also could feed your bad at the same time. So people drink a bunch of kombucha if you feel like you might have some bad bacteria going on, like some type of pathogen, viruses, C. diff, or anything like that. I would not consume too much kombucha. But fermented foods are wonderful for the good bacteria. But the best thing you can do is fruits, because fruits are so anti-bad bacterial, and they also feed good bacteria. They're wonderful. They have living microorganisms. They have elevated biotics. They have hydrobioactive water that your body can use very well to hydrate you. Okay. People need to eat more fruit if they want good, strong digestion. And sodium and calcium are important for digestion as well. The right type of calcium and sodium.
Well, that's super interesting because, like, everyone's on the keto bandwagon right now.
Yep, they are.
So They're not eating fruit, right?
They're afraid of fruit. People are afraid of fruit. Really? Like,
I agree.
we learned in kindergarten.
How dare you eat a banana?
It's gonna hurt you. But here, eat this. This processed, whatever. Like, yeah. Right. I mean, it's interesting. Processed people, they'll eat processed meat and bacon before they'll eat a banana or an apple.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to see here in a few years? Because I would say, how long do you think
liver problems? I mean, I don't recommend anybody do the keto diet just because what happens with fat is it thickens your blood. So your blood movement moves slower and oxygen can't get through. You don't want that. Your liver, your gallbladder, your adrenals, and your kidneys don't like too much fat.
Right. And so if you're doing the keto properly, isn't it like 30% protein and 70% fat?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
No, me neither. I'm not doing that either.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that either. I like fruit. I
do
a lot.
It's so important.
Yeah. But that's interesting because, there is a lot of people on that bandwagon, and you say, what other kind of issues are we going to see in the near future? Because this has been going on for a few years, but eventually it's going to manifest itself into something else, right? We're going to start seeing conditions related to this.
For sure. And what I've learned a lot lately is that it all goes down to the liver. The liver has over 2,000 functions undiscovered right now from science and research, but it's going to cause a stagnant, sluggish liver. And our liver is already so overburdened with the toxins because we're exposed to way too many toxins and more than the liver can handle. And when we give too much fat at the same time, our liver has to stop protecting us from these toxins, this toxic overload, and has to put all its focus into stopping your blood from thickening. And it's a process. It's very, so you don't want that. You want to do what your liver likes the most. And so that's what eventually it's going to happen. It's going to cause liver heat. And it's going to be problematic for sure. And if it's not happening now, it's going to happen in a couple years from now, maybe. It's eventually going to cause harm.
Right.
For sure.
What about the kidneys? Because the kidneys are helping us, process things and they're part of our elimination system. So is it hard on the kidneys as well?
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. The fat or the protein specifically?
The protein is fat.
Okay. Okay.
What I've seen now is right now there's over 250 million Americans walking around with these unknown symptoms, just mystery symptoms. They don't know, they don't know what's causing it. They don't know what's going on in the body. Science and research does not know what's causing these illnesses. They're just called autoimmune diseases.
Yes.
Right?
And everyone's got one, it seems like.
Exactly. And that's what I specialize in is autoimmune disease because I have a good feeling I know what the cause is and I approach it from there, and like science and research doesn't know what causes it. Cause unknown, your body's attacking itself is the only answer that people have whenever their bodies are just making these interesting, these symptoms, and that on its own will cause people their diseases to accelerate more. My body's attacking itself. What do you mean? Why would that happen? How is that possible? So that alone is going to cause problems. But
and then they want to suppress the immune system, right, with steroids.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem logical to me.
It doesn't either. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Either.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. So we've talked a little bit about keto, and we have your feelings on that. What about this paleo and like intermittent fasting? And do you think any of these diets should really ever be applied? And in what scenario should they be applied? So
if you look at the word diet, just take out the T. What does that spell?
Die.
That happens also with people that have like eating disorders or something like that. If they're too restrictive, it can cause really unhealthy eating patterns. It can cause binging, will just all of a sudden, because your body absolutely needs like sugar, like healthy sugar from fruit, from vegetables. When you don't get it, you're going to crave it. So every person that's on the keto diet, sorry to go back to that, but they're craving sugar, they're craving carbohydrates, and they're going to get it eventually. I work with paleos too, because there's a right way to do it. As long as you're eating leafy greens and fruit, you can do paleo diet, but you got to have the fruit, you got to have the vegetables, you got to have the leafy greens.
Right.
I can't believe people are afraid of fruits and vegetables. mean, it's just,
right.
we learned this in kindergarten that, you know, sailors didn't have access to fruits and they got scurvy and died.
Yes,
you know?
scurvy. I always tell my kids they're going to get scurvy if they don't eat the salads I make. I just get the eye roll. They're so used to it now. But you want scurvy?
Yeah.
I don't really think that's a disease anymore, Mom. Yeah, it is. It's real.
It's so funny. Yeah, but you know, just people should just be eating what their bodies like, and I think everybody can agree that fruits and vegetables are healthy and that you need to eat those. You know, everything else nobody can agree on. So at least actually people don't agree with that, but they should.
They should. Yeah,
They
I
should.
agree. I agree with you. It seems perfectly logical that anything that comes out of our earth can be nourishing.
Right from the ground.
Yeah, right from the ground to the
in the
table.
Bible, it says that the leaves of the trees are for healing the nations, you know?
Oh, I love that quote. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, Revelation 22:2.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of diet culture, I feel like it's even something that we see in the school system. I personally had kind of a battle with my kids at school when they were going there. They had restricted snacks to only being processed foods.
Mm-mm.
So they were only allowed a granola bar, a processed granola bar, or a processed piece of string cheese, or beef jerky.
Wow.
3 things.
That's ridiculous.
Because that's what the teacher found convenient for her. So they all got on board with that. And that was all we were supposed to allow our kids to eat, which I take issue with anybody telling you what your kid should eat, period.
For sure.
Yeah. But
cool.
It seemed to me like that was very much like a backing of this kind of diet nation. Like this was their perception of what was healthy, and they were going to enforce that on our kids.
It's not okay.
No. And diet culture, you know, it was so interesting because I was actually at the UFC fights this last weekend. Mm-hmm. And it was a fantastic experience. It was really just such an amazing experience to see athletes at that level. But I'll tell you, I had this one kind of interaction. I was sitting there and there was a guy sitting behind us, and I hadn't really looked at him, you know, so I didn't know who he was or whatever. But he started talking about one of the fighters who happened to be a woman. And this man started kind of giving his opinion of this woman. And it was quite awful. He said how gross she was because she had muscles and looked like a man, quote, end quote.
He's a fighter.
Yeah, exactly. So it was very interesting because I listened to him go on and on and on and make his opinion of this woman who was in phenomenal shape. Because it's hard for women to build muscle like that, right? Mm-hmm. It requires a lot of dedication. And so I turned around and I looked at the guy and, I figured out why he was so upset with her, because he was about 5'5", maybe 110 pounds or so. Yeah. Right? And so his comments were not a reflection of her. It was more of a reflection of him.
For sure.
Right? So he was, but that's like the perception, I think, of our diet culture, right? In this country that, you know, women should be seen in a certain way.
Skinny.
And even men now, you know, young men are dieting and concerned about their weight and being thin and whatnot. And so like in your practice, how do you experience that? And how are you working to kind of break that mold?
I just want people to have a better relationship with food, you know, and if you look at these diets, when you go back to what's, you know, where they started, there's usually a product or something to be sold as a result, you know, that's why. And that's why they all start, just somebody wants to sell something, make money from it somehow, because you can't make money from fruits and vegetables, you know? Right. I can recommend to my patients, go get some fruits and vegetables, and I'm not gonna make a penny from that, but I know it's gonna make them get better. You know? Right. So I just try to help people just say, you know, do what your body likes and do what your body wants. And when I've seen the root cause of a lot of illnesses is pathogens and viruses that science and research has not discovered yet. There's foods that feed these pathogens and viruses and bacteria and toxins.
Wow.
That science and research not only doesn't know what causes it or that they even exist because you can't test for it, but they also don't know what feeds it. So just kind of get to the root of that. Let's make sure that, because almost everybody has got some SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth.
Right. That's very common. And that's like your brain fog and what are like sore joints and inflammation in the joints and stuff?
Totally. Yeah. And also could be digestion problems like acid reflux can be that from that too. It could be really anything.
Wow.
Because toxicity gets accumulated into the body and then it gets deposited into connective tissue, just different parts of the body. That's what people are experiencing, all different kinds of illnesses. It just depends on the person where that toxic overload ended up.
Right. So, and that's so true too. That's a really good point to bring up. Where did that toxic overload bring up? Because it looks different for everybody.
It does, for sure.
Right.
Everybody's anxiety is different. Everybody's depression is different.
Right.
Right.
And so it's so important to dial in, like you said, get quiet and really listen to your body, because what works for someone else isn't necessarily going to be helpful to you.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I'm hopeful that we can move on past the kind of diet culture that we live in and be a little bit more. Yeah.
Every day it's like, oh, I'm starting my new diet. Know this, know this, know this. I'm like, well, you need that, you need that, you need that. So
yeah. Yeah. Another one I heard of, which I find quite interesting, is this blood type diet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, that was, I mean, that lasted a very, very, very long time. And some people have a lot of success with it. But the thing is that it's not word for word everything that you should only follow this diet, Right. Because I think some people, there's things that it says you can't have, like fruits and vegetables, for instance. I'm like, well, why can't you have that? Does your body just not take that? What do people do whenever the first people ever, the gatherers, what did they do when they ate their fruits and vegetables? You think they said, oh, my blood type says no. They didn't have access to it, So
how many different blood types are there? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know how many for sure. No, I don't. There's like AB, B positive, and then B positive, O negative, O positive. I don't know. There's a lot.
They can have a different combination of all of those. So, do you have how does the O type supposed to eat according to the blood type diet?
So O types, O blood. So when I do some research on it, A's were the gatherers, the B's, they were the first people there, the gatherers, and the B's were the hunters, and the O's, I guess, were like both. So the O's, I see people that are O blood type for the most part, whenever they get off meat, have the hardest time.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I feel like
and I tried to go vegetarian for a while way back in the day, and it didn't go well.
They just feel weak, and they just feel like they're losing their muscle, and they feel like, did you feel brain fog? Did you feel fatigue?
Yes, all of those things.
Yeah, and probably some more. And but for me, I'm an A blood type, so I do the best with plant-based food.
Interesting. Okay, so A blood types are more.
Again, I think there is a correlation for sure, but I don't think that I think some people just take it too far, I guess.
Right. It's too extreme.
Yeah.
Right. So would you say then that everybody should really be on more of an omnivore diet?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
we're just nothing in excess, right?
Everything. Just not like, people that are eating meat 3 times a day. They'll wake up and have bacon and eggs, and then they'll have a chicken salad for lunch, and they'll have a steak for dinner. I think that can be problematic, having just overdoing it. Because, from like that, hundreds of years ago, the only people that would eat a lot of meat would be royalty, kings,
Right. That's true.
So we didn't have as much access to meat as we do now. We have access to it. It's everywhere all the time.
Right. And we're so removed from it too.
For sure.
I think it's kind of funny. We've had kids over to our house because we live on a small farm, and they're like almost a little scared to eat our eggs that come right from the chicken.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're like, well, is this okay to eat? Like, you just caught it out of there. It's like, yes.
That's possible.
Yeah, but that's how far removed we have gotten from what we're eating.
For sure.
We're completely disconnected from what we're eating.
Like that needs to be in a lab first, right?
Yeah. Or cleaned or,
Yeah.
bleached or
Yeah.
sterilized or radiated or,
Really.
yeah. When, the best food comes from, in my opinion, in our garden, our tomatoes right off the vine are the
Totally.
most incredible of
Definitely.
all.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's interesting how we've become so like removed from the process of our food.
Absolutely.
And that would be a good way to connect to your diet as well. Because I know in the summer, when we have a garden, there's something magical about growing your own meal.
Totally. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you garden as well?
Absolutely. Well, I live in an apartment right now, but I am growing some tomatoes right now. But
Yeah.
I'm going to move to Golden in a couple months, and I'm going to have a nice backyard so I can grow all things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I think we really could benefit a ton from going back to that kind of lifestyle, just that connection to our food
For sure.
and what we're putting in. That's really interesting. So we talked a little bit about how our food is kind of not providing the nutrients that we need. Can you kind of explain what happens a little bit more in detail when we do go deficient for, you said, a long time, and then your body starts to show up? So, show up with certain symptoms. Can you outline that breakdown a little bit? Like, say specifically, magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in that process of, not putting in the nutrients for a long time and then being deficient?
Yeah. So when your body's deficient in nutrients, it needs it so bad that it will take it from reserves that where it needs it, So, if it's stored or if it's not, it could be in your bones. It could be anywhere in the body that your body will take that from and use it because it needs it so bad. Our bodies need it so bad, but we're not taught this. And then we put foods like, cereal or like, just gluten or whatever we're eating, or our bodies, when it's deficient, then we're going to put toxic food in there. Then it's going to just cause an inflammatory response, which is going to burn through more of your reserves. And it's going to be worse. And people are on this kind of like, this roller coaster of
Right.
nutrients. Yeah, exactly. And then every time they eat, they're not getting the nutrients their body needs, and it's oftentimes inflammatory. That's what's going to cause all kinds of problems. 'Cause then you're depressed, and then your body's not healthy, and you don't feel good, and
Right.
So it's just, that can't be fun.
Right. And then it's just another cycle of
Really.
it every time.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. What can people do to be proactive and kind of protect their health? What are some proactive things? Like, someone comes into your office and they're just like you said, say that with the whole autoimmune thing, because that's such a big thing that's out there right now. They walk into your office and, they've got this wrong, this symptom, and science and research says, we don't know what's wrong with you. We don't know. Where do you start? What can they start with from the very beginning?
What they can do right now is they can go outside and get some sun, take their shoes off and walk barefoot in nature, and do some deep, slow, rhythmic breathing. Do some exercise, do some yoga, stretch. That's a really good way, because we hold a lot of tension in our bodies, like our hips and our legs and things like that, our back and our neck. And getting a massage or getting in a nice hot warm shower is a great way to heal yourself right now. And something that's very interesting that's I've came across lately, that I've seen the best results I could possibly imagine, would be celery juice, straight from the juicer. Actually, have you heard about that at all?
I have heard about the celery thing, and I did it for a week, and I did notice I just felt just more energetic.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely felt more energetic. How much does someone have to drink?
16 ounces of celery juice on an empty stomach every day, which is about a stock, depending on how good your juicer is. So right now it's like $1.20 a day. That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, it's so cheap. I mean, everybody can do it.
It's not even a Starbucks coffee.
Right? Yeah. So that's what I noticed, these sodium cluster salts that are in celery, because celery is an herb. So it's an herb.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not a vegetable, it's an herb. So the sodium cluster salts in celery juice are able to neutralize toxins as they're floating through the bloodstream and organs. And they can also, with heavy metals, which have a very destructive charge, an active charge to them. It causes the metals to be damaging to the liver cells, brain cells, and other cells throughout the body. These will diffuse the charge, rendering them inactive and less aggressive, specifically disarming toxic heavy metals such as copper, aluminum, and mercury. And they fight off unwanted bacteria. It'll restore your neurotransmitters. And it also will help your body produce hydrochloric acid and bile. It also will kill pathogens and viruses and bacteria.
I did not know that.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And I'm so thankful to find just an easy solution to there's a book about it, celery juice. I recommend everybody buy that book because literally for everything, it will address it and
that is
help.
fascinating.
And I've seen fast results. Yeah.
So
definitely.
So 16 ounces a day just on an empty stomach every morning, you recommend?
Yeah.
And organic celery?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that they could just do every day and see, kind of document the results from that as they go with it.
Yes.
That
people notice something fast. People notice fast results. And that's what I love. I love fast results. They can start buying organic fruits and vegetables, go to town and don't be afraid of them. The only ones I would recommend, which is corn, but corn's not even a vegetable, it's a grain. So, just stick with fruits and vegetables and don't be afraid of them. If your body responds, like sometimes people say, oh, I can't eat raw vegetables. That's because they're sweeping and cleaning their body. So they're having a reaction to it. So they're feeling it. But really what they're doing is it's and massaging the walls of your intestine, but it's just cleaning it out. It's grabbing all the crap. And that's what you're feeling.
Interesting. So is it like you're experiencing almost like a detox then?
Yes.
Wow, that's
People
fascinating.
think that they can't eat it, but that's because your body needs it and it's being used efficiently,
Right. So if you have like an ab reaction, what you think is an ab reaction to like onions, a lot of people list onions, but onion is a natural antibiotic, is it not?
Yeah, it is for sure.
So if you're having a reaction to an onion where it's making you burp or making you, having heartburn or whatever, what is that saying?
Saying that your body's eliminating something. And toxins don't always leave the body quietly.
Yeah. Well, we know that just from, everyone knows that because you get the flu.
Yeah, for
right?
Sure.
When your body's dealing with a foreign antibody or whatever you want to call it, it's violent sometimes.
Totally. Yes. Your body's fighting it off.
That's so interesting because it's people really do eliminate a lot of foods because of what they think how it makes them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the very foods that they actually may need.
For sure.
That's very interesting.
There's a lot of myths out there, And also I would say take some good nutritional supplements. I love the longevity supplements. I've seen, it's just, there's way too many good results from that. You can't argue with that,
Absolutely. Quality supplementing is really key. I've experienced it myself, firsthand, so I can definitely speak for that.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Also, get off of screen time. Sorry, go ahead. You were saying something?
Oh, no, go ahead. Please.
Screen time.
Talk about screen time. Yeah, we've talked about this like recently on the podcast.
I've noticed.
What are your feelings on that?
Also, like people that have these stressful jobs, they don't like their boss, they don't like their environment, it's a toxic work environment, and then they go home and then they relax and unwind and watch TV. But first they drive home in their car, which is tons of stress on the body, and then they get home, watch TV to unwind and relax. So really what's happening, there's tons of lights and noises and sounds, blue lights happening, flashing in front of you. You're not relaxing and unwinding. Right. It's actually causing your body stress. That's just a TV, and then people spend tons of time on their phone. All these electronics that they're using. Kids at 2 years old, hey, this will keep you quiet. This will keep you distracted. Look at this all day. Right. I don't think that's a healthy way to raise a child, and I don't think that people should spend so much time on their phone. Right. I think it's causing a lot of mental problems for sure.
Well, yeah. If you just think about it from a common sense point of view, how can something so small like a 2-year-old be constantly stimulated and then not have some kind of behavioral issue or
sure.
pent up energy or some kind of reaction from that kind of stimulation on a regular basis?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something to think about. And we talked about it on the podcast the other day about in terms of sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it keeps me up. If I look at my phone, when I fall asleep, it keeps me awake. For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love your approach when you talk about things that, people can do easily. To me, I'm seeing a pattern here. It's like soothe the body.
Totally. Relax,
Yeah. Soothe
comfort your body. Have compassion for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, how really it's such a simple thing. And
Totally.
I was just listening to something about fear earlier today. And, that comes into play when we are not feeling well as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Like, so if we can kind of, and I think people get fearful of their health, right? So then it
For sure.
they get a symptom and then they get fearful and then, it just kind of ramps it up.
That's because there's no solution out there to their problem.
Right.
That's got to be terrifying for people that have these symptoms, and then they look around. Their mom had, their mom had breast cancer. They're getting the signs of breast cancer or fibromyalgia or something.
Right.
Their only solution is there's nothing we can do about it. Your body's going to attack itself.
Right.
That's not fun. Nobody wants to hear that.
No. And then you're coming at it from an even weaker perspective, really, because mentally you're not prepared and you're feeling like you have no control.
For sure.
Which is, I think, a lot of the problem when it comes to making decisions in our health is that we feel like we're at other people's, we have to rely on other people for answers. We have to rely on other people to make decisions for us. And they don't even know us.
Exactly. I know. For sure. Yeah.
And that's one thing I really respect about functional medicine and naturopaths is that they have this incredible, kind of screening process where you come into an office and you're answering a myriad of questions.
Mm-hmm. I ask tons of questions. And also I have people write out like their health problems when they first noticed something off or something that wasn't working. And then what emotional event happened around that time. That's usually what it stems from.
Right.
More than most of the time. What type of traumatic experience did you deal with at that time? And that's usually what's where it starts, and it gets worse from there.
Oh, that's so fascinating. So do you think like it's the way we think about that traumatic experience, or is it that stress is impairing our immune system, that we're not able to fight things off? Which do you think it is, or do you think it's both?
Oh, for sure. And there's over 56 types of adrenaline. So when we experience adrenaline, our body can cause, our adrenaline's very important for many things, but also causes our own body harm. So when we're experiencing adrenaline, it's causing terrible things happening in our body. It can destroy our intestinal tract. It can do a lot of things. So yeah, whenever you're under stress, and a lot of it, it's causing health problems for sure.
Right. So this whole yoga movement isn't so foo-y.
Right? Yeah, it's just relaxing and stretching,
right? And that seems so simple. But you mentioned taking your shoes off and walking in the grass, and I started doing that last year. I think my sister actually told me about that she had read an article about grounding.
Yeah.
And then it came up a couple more times and I started reading about it and researching it. What a profound effect on the way people felt, this grounding.
Yeah.
It's
free. It's easy.
It's so easy. It's free.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was doing that all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But we've gotten so far away again from that.
Connected,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but from the earth, there's negative electrons and ions that your body needs. That you don't get it because our shoes are made out of rubber, and rubber blocks that. So we're not connecting to nature and the earth anymore, like we're supposed to, like we have been for thousands of years. So unfortunately, I'm starting to design shoes that are made out of things other than rubber.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's fascinating.
We can actually get those healing benefits from the earth, day-to-day lives.
Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic idea. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Put me on your list to order a pair.
For sure.
So you've had some successes, you're treating patients all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking a little bit about some recent successes. And will you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, one of my friends, I've known her for quite a while, came to me and said, hey, because I kind of mentioned how I know these products. I just kind of brought it up to her last time I saw her, or that time I saw her. And I said, hey, like this product is one of the products that you would reverse genital herpes with. And she, thought about it. And then she contacted me a couple of days later and said, hey, I need you to cure my herpes. And so I said, oh, and then she's like, I'll go public with it as soon as it's reversed. I was like, to help with your business. I'm like, what? Wow. Okay. Like that was an interesting text. I was like, whoa, wow. Okay.
What people are hiding, we just don't know. Right?
Yeah. I was like, I did not know that, but that's great. It didn't make me see her any differently because I know that's very common and happens a lot. And it's
right. Of course.
Get, actually you get it from skin contact.
Is that how you get herpes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's super contagious, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And so, I just put her on the program. Didn't take very long, but it was reversed. She no longer has it. So
really? So does that mean that she's like testing negative for the virus?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. It's no longer, I mean, I'm sure it could possibly some remains in there or dormant in there or something, but she doesn't have any symptoms and it shows negative on the test now. So that's great. And people need to know that there are solutions to not only just your health problems, like there are solutions to if your body's out of balance, but also things like that too, that are sexually transmitted. There's a solution to that too. There's a way to not have to deal with that. You don't have to be on drugs the rest of your life that are going to cause you more harm.
Right.
Really what it boils down to is the liver, actually. So pharmaceutical drugs are toxic for the liver. It's going to make the liver worse. So it's not going to help. It's going to make it worse. So
right. It just puts a Band-Aid on it, right? Which is kind of the whole thing with Western medicine.
For sure.
You're not getting to the root of the problem.
Exactly.
You have fixed the root of the problem here.
Yeah. Disease management, which that's not what we're doing here. We're like, we're going to help you heal. You're going to live happier, healthier, look and feel your best,
Yeah, that's so powerful and how amazing. I can't wait to hear her story.
For sure. Yeah.
Amazing. So Taylor, where can people connect with you? I know that, you may get some emails after this. So, Taylor.
So my clinics are Boulder Body Balance, that's in Boulder, and also BioNew, that's in Littleton, BIONUU. But you can just email me, taylor@bionew.com, and we can set something up. I'm happy to speak. I offer free 15-minute phone consultations to see if I'm a fit.
Okay.
I'll do that right now. And
that's awesome.
I'll also do telemedicine through Zoom, actually.
Right. That's the beauty. That's such a, that's the beauty of today that, everyone's virtually accessible.
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's so much easier. I can travel and, and help people.
Yeah. And, that's awesome that you could actually have a functional medicine practitioner working with you via the internet, via these Zoom calls, and probably get more time for your buck.
For sure.
Right. More time and have a real medical detective trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
For sure. And I like people that can take me into their, with their phone or their laptop, take me into their kitchen, show me what products they use, and then their bathroom, their makeup and their just cleaners, because people don't realize that it makes a major impact what products you're putting on your body. It gets absorbed right into the liver, lotions and makeup and just body scrub, toothpaste, things like that.
Right.
All that makes a difference. It really does. So I like being able to be in people's personal space. If they want me to show me what the kind of things that they use, I'm like, yes, that's great. And just kind of giving them some tips, because that stuff matters too. Right. So that's great. That's a great part of it.
I look at it like layers, right? You're not going to eliminate everything, right? You're not going to be able to eliminate, and you can't get so crazy OCD about it that you're worried about it all the time. Yeah. But the things that I can control, I do. Right? Yes. I can control the water I drink, that it's clean by filtering. Absolutely. I can, use natural products of makeup or whatever that I'm putting on my skin.
Totally.
Those are simple things to control. You can't control the air.
No, you can't.
But you're definitely going to lighten
Not yet. I'm planning on it.
Well, I can't wait for that one. You can definitely lighten your load.
For sure.
Right.
Totally.
And make a lot of progress with that.
Oh yeah. For sure.
That's awesome. Well, Taylor, it's been so fun talking to you. I want you to give your Instagram out too, because I think you have a really beautiful Instagram, and
Thank you.
There's a lot of wonderful information on there. What is it again?
Nature's Path 90.
Great. So follow Taylor on Instagram and look out for her new awesome shoes that are going to be coming on the market, where you can ground and get the earth's ions through your shoes, because this is making some difference in the world. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you for being on the Naturally Inspired podcast today.
Have a great day.
If the Naturally Inspired movement makes sense to you, let's do this together and transform the medical model and help people take charge of their health. Learn more about how you can join the Naturally Inspired movement by going to naturallyinspiredadvocate.com or call me at 970-475-4862.